Now, you can listen to Wine and Dine Radio while shopping at the grocery store or your neighborhood wine merchant. Wine and Dine Radio can be heard using your wireless internet on your cell phone. You're listening to iWineRadio. iWineRadio is a production of Food Tastes Better with Wine on the web at iWineRadio.com. Hey guys, I thank you for listening to iWineRadio, and we are still the only wine channel on iTunes Radio. If you go look under iTunes Radio icon and scroll down to News and Talk Directory, and it's listed alphabetically, click on that and the stream comes up immediately. iWineRadio.com, where you can find links to individual guests. And if anyone's interested in advertising or becoming an underwriter or sponsor, please contact us at iWineRadio.com. We really, really appreciate your support. The more support we get, the more conversations I can have with fascinating people around the world, including you. If you have a story to tell that you'd like to share on iWine Radio, go to iWineRadio.com and contact us, and we'll go from there.
Hi, this is Alice Feiring, the author of The Battle for Wine and Love and How I Saved the World from Parkerization, also the author of The Feiring Line, the blog, and the newly released newsletter, 10 issues a year, $65, bringing you the best of sustainable, natural, and biodynamic wines that I love, with kind of articles ranging from the geeky to the extremely friendly about agriculture and the people behind exciting drinks.
Alice Feiring is rejoining us today on Wine and Dine, and when I read this email about the fact that she put out a brand new newsletter separate from her blog, separate from her books, I just had to ask her to talk to us about it today on Wine and Dine. And, you know, when we talked to her originally, she was a guest speaker at a conference in the West Coast, and her passion is focused around wines that are made naturally. So that would include organic wines, biodynamic wines. And Alice, I've got to ask you, you're continuing, I would assume, that same sort of philosophy going forward with the newsletter?
Yeah.
And it's called The Feiring Line.
Yes, The Feiring Line, the newsletter, because my blog is also called The Feiring Line, but I figured I should just stick with it.
Oh, yeah, stick with the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in the very first issue, you were talking about Beaujolais. Are we into now the second issue of the Feiring Line newsletter?
Funny, I've been editing it right before we spoke, and It should be out December 12th to the 14th. But, yeah, definitely it's coming up in the next 2 weeks. So the content is down, and I'm just making sure I've got all my fine points.
So we have here, if people subscribe to an annual subscription of the Feiring Line, the real wine newsletter, I love that. It's 10 issues. It's
10 issues, right? Every 6-7 weeks.
That's great. You're giving yourself realistic wiggle room.
I thought so. You know, people thought, oh, you're going to do like a regular magazine, you'll do 2 double issues. So no, just like spread it out. Also, people were saying, you know, it really is too many. You should do 6. And my first instinct was that's too little, and I should try keeping it shorter and more frequent.
And that gives you the flexibility to be more topical, things that are in the news now rather than, behind the curve, so to speak.
Exactly. Exactly. So, of course, being an online newsletter, I've got the advantage. So when I go to Europe to taste, where I will be in the late January, those wines, which will be fresh off, not quite the boat, but basically I'll be able to get my first new vintage taste, get the assessment, and get that to the reader as soon as possible. Because, a lot of the wines that I write about they really are very hard to get, and they are very small production. And so you kind of want to be on the first, first to know what it is.
Right.
Where to get it.
Okay, so where are you going in January? What?
I am going to the Loire. There's at the end of January, beginning of February, there are a clutch of really fantastic tastings. So there are about 4 or 5 tastings. I also am going to be going to Champagne and Burgundy.
Oh my gosh, you lucky woman!
Yeah, so I'm super excited to see some of my winemaking gods. I haven't been to Champagne for a while, and there's some people that I've just been dying to meet. So all of that copy, because there are about 3 to 4 short articles, and there are always vineyard visits, and all that'll be there, as well as not wine reviews, but these are wine recommendations.
Okay. Oh, yes. Speak to us about that. You do not do scores, and I thank you very much.
No, I don't do scores, but I did. I did develop with my my designer some icons.
Okay.
So each wine will have an assortment of icons from, hardcore, which means this is going to be a hardcore natural wine and proceed with danger and a lot of understanding.
Okay.
And to classic, like just classic wine, a new heartthrob, geeky, all that sort of stuff. But they're absolutely, since these are all wines that I love, how could I possibly score them?
Right.
It's all about mood.
Oh, that's good. Okay, mood, and does mood include what you want to eat?
Yes.
Okay.
Often. But these are really wines that I am going out and buying myself for any, and I will say, I will certainly give a tip about whether, this is really something that you don't want any distraction with when you're drinking, it's really intellectual wine, or this is really great for parties because it's so light, that kind of stuff.
And so there won't be a printed version unless somebody wants to print off a PDF or something. This is an electronic newsletter.
This is, an electronic downloadable PDF. When I get up to a certain amount of readership, I will go to phase 2, and it'll be like, Jancis has a password-protected website. That'll be the next phase.
Okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And the subscription is $65 per year. And do you have, and you just were blown away, it seems, from the original press release email you sent out with you had a very strong showing of support right off the bat.
I know. So at first I was like, oh, God, does anybody care? Do they really want this? And I started doing it because a lot of people had asked me, but I didn't really believe it. Then I did a Kickstarter campaign just to kickstart it, and I met which is a relatively modest goal of $6,000, but I met that in 22 hours. So that was like, okay, I guess I'm doing it, and I guess there are going to be readers.
Yeah.
But there's nothing else like it, and I guess there's a need for it. There's nowhere else where people can go for wines that are at least sustainable, but usually organic and biodynamic, and are made with the philosophy of nothing added, nothing taken away. There's nothing like it.
Alice, do you have subscribers so far that are outside of the U.S., in particular Europe and Asia?
Yeah, I just was going over my stats, and I've got about 12% of my readership for the people that signed up outside.
Okay.
So, a lot of it in France, Italy, Spain, one in Lebanon, a few in Scandinavia, a few in Asia.
Okay.
Yeah. And South America.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So the current issue, I see that, or the December issue that's coming up, you're going to be talking about a wine bar in Georgia.
And the Canary
Islands.
I'm going to be talking about the effect of basalt on wine as a terroir, one of the great undiscovered and not discussed terroirs. We hear about limestone and granite.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be trying to do this like exploration of how the soil translates into the grape. So there will be that. My trip to the Canary Islands. Why I was just a bunch of how come I'm blanking?
Oh, okay. Sparklers and spirits for party and gifting.
Right. And
Independent Thinkers of Alsace.
Oh, right. Yes, that was the important one. that was really, actually, that and the Canary Islands. The Canary Islands is going to, I'm just so fascinated by the wines from there. And of course, it's all, it's all basalt, so it really factors in quite nicely with my discussion on basalt. And I went to some absolutely crazy winemakers in Alsace who are doing very groundbreaking work and making fascinating wines. And actually, there's a little bit of basalt there, too. So I try to make it somehow in my own crazy way I'll tie in.
It seemed to me, and maybe my brain's not serving me correct, but basalt has to do with volcano, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so I'm pretty sure that I think I've had conversations with a couple winemakers that are up on like Spring Mountain sort of a thing, mm-hmm. that they've talked about basalt being. So wines that are, or grapes that are grown on vineyard, that are in basalt have, I would imagine, really good drainage. And doesn't it also affect acidity? It magnifies or retains acidity, a little higher acidity in the wines?
Exactly.
Okay.
Got it. It does. And the secret to why hopefully will be revealed in the newsletter. But I just found it absolutely fascinating. And, there is a great deal of basalt in the Columbia River Basin. Oh. And so there are little bits of it, but it really depends on how much it's weathered. So what you get out west is a lot of big rock basalt, but that's just heating up the soil.
Okay.
It's when it gets weathered and broken down.
Okay.
And it really, like out in the Canary Islands where all the they're like whales of volcanoes out there. It just doesn't stop. And there's all this black and red soil. It's quite interesting.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy. That sounds like a great conversation. Now, right now on your website, you have this interesting reflection on on Krug champagne.
And Krug, yeah.
And I wish so much I would have. I never requested an interview with Krug, and now it seems like it's kind of like there's no point almost.
I kind of think it's no point. It's just like an LVMH show. And Olivier Krug is still going around and showing the wines for them, and so there's still a Krug name attached. And but the real, and basically they're gone. Caroline is working in some totally different field. It's extremely sad. And if they had kept the kind of vinification going and the respect for the wine, it would have been okay, fine.
Yes.
But how can you do that when the people are removed? I don't see how you can do it.
Yes.
Well, it was a glorious bottle. It really was.
Well, maybe in our lifetime, the one who's not in wine at all will decide that she has to pursue her family heritage and go back to it, maybe on another level or a different name or something.
Right, maybe. It would be great.
Well, Alice Feiring, with the Feiring Line, the Real Wine Newsletter, I'd like to congratulate you on this fantastic independent coup. And perhaps you'll join us on a regular basis to talk about kind of tease people with newsletter contents before you release.
Fantastic.
Okay, we will have links up for you to learn more. And I thank you for listening. And what a good gift-giving idea of an annual subscription to the Feiring Line. You're listening to Wine and Dine. Now you can listen to Wine and Dine Radio while shopping at the grocery store or your neighborhood wine merchant. Wine and Dine Radio can be heard using your wireless internet on your cell phone. You're listening to iWineRadio. iWineRadio is a production of Food Tastes Better with Wine, on the web at iWineRadio.com. Hey guys, I thank you for listening to iWine Radio, and we are still the only wine channel on iTunes Radio. If you go look under iTunes Radio icon and scroll down to News and Talk Directory, and it's listed alphabetically, click on that and the stream comes up immediately. iWineRadio.com, where you can find links to individual guests. And if anyone's interested in advertising or becoming an underwriter or sponsor, please contact us at iWineRadio.com. We really, really appreciate your support. The more support we get, the more conversations I can have with fascinating people around the world, including you. If you have a story to tell that you'd like to share on iWine Radio, go to iWineRadio.com and contact us, and we'll go from there.